Welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft, welcoming you to our live, local, 5 days a week TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Oakland County. Today, we'll be talking to a number of different individuals on a number of topics important and interesting to people like you right here in Oakland County. Let's get into today's headlines on our website at civiccentertv.com. On our local news page, our top story comes from Robin Erb at Bridge, Michigan, as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have loosened their COVID-19 rules and guidelines with a new onus on people, not schools or businesses, making decisions to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The Biden administration further relaxed guidelines on Thursday for controlling the spread of COVID, moving away from quarantine, social distancing, and other security staples of the pandemic. And in turn, that could have implications for Michigan schools as they begin a new school year very soon. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said it is no longer recommended that schools perform routine testing or require students exposed to COVID-19 to test and stay at home. They can now stay in school. The CDC's move away from such vetting would also apply to most businesses and other institutions. Quote, the quote-unquote streamlining of the CDC's guidance is a nod to the waning lethality of the virus, and it's likely an acknowledgement, too, that the public's inclination nearly 2.5 years into the pandemic to pick and choose what guidelines they'll follow anyway is much stronger than any recommendations they could give. Quote, people have moved on with their lives and accepted the risks inherent with COVID-19, said Dr. Matthew Sims, Director of Infectious Disease Research at Beaumont Health and Professor of Medicine at Oakland University. Sims said the changes reflect the mood of the public as well as the multiple layers of protection now available. Millions have had one or more vaccines. Millions have had COVID-19 and have some immunity from natural immunity, and therapeutics now exist to combat serious illness. And the current variants of the coronavirus, now dominated by Omicron subvariant BA.5, have proven less likely to cause severe illness and death. Quote, right now, it's not the same disease as it was in the beginning, end close quote, said Sims. But Sims also cautioned that people at higher risk, older residents, and those with underlying serious health conditions should remain very wary, and the CDC still strongly recommends that those people protect themselves with high-quality masks. Some people, however, are still concerned. The CDC announced on the loosened guidelines just yesterday, detailing its reasoning in its morbidity and mortality weekly report. Instead of quarantining, the CDC, as of Thursday, now recommends anyone exposed to a person infected with COVID-19, quote, wear a high-quality mask for 10 days and get tested on day 5. Instead of 6-foot social distancing guidelines, the CDC recommends that anyone, quote, at high risk for severe illness can consider avoiding crowded areas and minimizing direct physical contact, end close quote. That's especially true in settings with high risk of exposure and those places that aren't well ventilated. The CDC also has stopped differentiating guidelines based on vaccine status. Remaining in place are recommendations for people who are infected or suspect that they may be infected. Regardless of vaccination status, people with COVID symptoms or who test positive for COVID should isolate for at least 5 days, according to CDC guidelines, and end their isolation only when test results come back negative once again. While COVID, quote, remains an ongoing public health threat, end close quote, vaccines and treatments have, quote, substantially reduced the risk for medically significant illness, hospitalization, and death, end close quote, wrote CDC researchers. Experts say millions of people now have immunity from vaccines, boosters, or previous infection or natural immunity, and often some combination. In Michigan, 5.8 million people are fully vaccinated, or 58% of all residents, and over 2.3 million people have a confirmed case of COVID-19, including nearly 850,000 people in 2022 alone. And that is likely an undercount, as many people with mild symptoms do not necessarily get tested, and if they do, often through home tests, as we've said many times before, are less likely to report their positive results to doctors or to local health departments. Since the pandemic first hit the state in March of 2020, there have been 34,449 confirmed COVID-19 related deaths in Michigan. It has hit the elderly particularly hard, with 2/3 of all those deaths hitting those 70 years of age and older. There's now recommended a personal risk assessment be taken by individuals to determine what steps they should take to prevent the spread of COVID-19 to themselves and especially to others. The CDC's move on Thursday was another step away from the strict do not and avoid guidelines of the early days of the pandemic and toward individuals taking more personal responsibility for security against the virus, something that was in turn earlier on in the pandemic, especially initially, something that was urged by those that did not agree with the CDC or the federal government's guidelines regarding COVID-19. That's kind of the model now. So the question obviously is going to probably come up. Well, why wasn't that always the model? We knew what this disease was pretty early on, right? We knew it was going to adversely affect those that are of greater age or have underlying health conditions. Why do we all have to follow all these guidelines and stay away from things? Well, the issue there is this was a novel virus. It is a novel virus. We didn't know anything about it at the beginning of this pandemic. It took us a while to figure out that this is presumably more lethal to those that are of older age and those with underlying health conditions, especially if they are infected with COVID-19 and given the number of treatment options that were available at that time, plus the impact of hospitalizations on our medical systems locally as well. But now it's a different case. We have vaccines, we have booster shots to help prevent the spread of COVID-19, not prevent the spread of COVID-19, my apologies, to help prevent severe disease related to COVID-19 in most cases, as well as this article from Robin Erb and the team at Bridge, Michigan had mentioned therapeutics that allow to treat COVID-19 and prevent severe disease after infection. So there are more options out there. There are more responses out there that are effective and that are safe, that allow the personal responsibility model to be more viable. And that's why the CDC went with this in their decision on Thursday. For example, the CDC's community levels map will remain in place, continuing to signal the level of COVID-19 spread in a given community and the level of pressure on existing hospital beds going forward. According to the latest map updated on Thursday, the CDC still recommends that everyone, regardless of their vaccination status, wear a mask indoors in public settings in 10 of Michigan's 83 counties. That is good news. That's down from 18 just a week ago. Most of the quote-unquote high-risk counties are sparsely populated and in northern or lower Michigan or in the upper peninsula. Those recommendations will remain in place at this time, according to the CDC. Still, the steeper lean toward personal decision-making also can be complicated. It is, in its weekly report, the CDC included an 8-layer decision tree to help Americans decide when to isolate, when to mask, and when to take additional precautions against COVID-19. The extent to which new guidelines impact individual workplaces will largely depend on how closely those workplaces were still following the old guidelines, whether staff were quarantining after COVID exposure, or whether patrons are still spaced 6 feet apart in these locations. The CDC said it would issue, quote, standalone guidance for healthcare settings, congregate settings at higher risk of transmission, and travel, and closed quote, in the coming weeks. In Michigan schools, there's been a steady shift over the last 2.5 years toward personal responsibility, said Ingham Intermediate District Superintendent Jason Malema. For example, the early days of the pandemic, schools were in charge of contact tracing, such as by warning others who came in close contact with an infected person in one of their facilities, Malema said. Now it is increasingly the responsibility of individuals to tell each other if they were exposed to the virus. Districts will continue to use the CDC guidance for guidance when it comes to the number of days to isolate after infection, however, Malema said. There's plenty more of insight from school districts across the state of Michigan on that front as well, including in Ann Arbor, more locally to us, as well as throughout the state. Go ahead, click on that article on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page to learn more. Also making headlines on our local news page today from Liliana Webb at the Detroit Free Press. The spotted lanternfly has turned up in Oakland County, and the grape industry is under threat because of it. Michigan's first spotted lanternfly was detected on Wednesday of this week, right here in Oakland County. The highly invasive bug could bring destruction to grapevines and trees. Quote, although not unexpected, this is certainly tough news to share due to its potential to negatively impact Michigan's grape industry, in closed quote, said Gary McDowell, director of the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. The U.S. Department of Agriculture confirmed the finding this week on Thursday. The insect is invasive and is from Eastern Asia. It was first found in the United States in Pennsylvania in 2014, and they feed on wide ranges of plants, including the tree of heaven, grapes, black walnut trees, river birch trees, willow trees, sumac trees, and red maples. Spotted lanternflies produce a sticky liquid while feeding on that gathers on the ground or nearby vegetation. This liquid forms a sooty mold, discoloring or killing plants altogether. Quote, the research community is still learning about the spotted lanternfly and its potential for impacting our natural resources, as well as treatments to eliminate this pest, end closed quote, said Joanne Foreman, Michigan Department of Natural Resources Invasive Species Communications Coordinator. Say that 5 times fast. Quote, it could also have an effect on important timber species nationwide. What the long-term impact will be is unknown, end closed quote. The Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development recommends the following. Report sightings to eyes in the field. Send in photographs of the bug along with the location, the time, and the date of the sighting. Check your vehicles for eggs or insects. Look on your doors, on your sides, on bumpers, on wheels, and on the roof for the spotted lanternfly, which is pictured for those of you watching on civiccentertv.com and on demand on civiccentertv.com/megacast. Keep windows closed when parked to avoid the insect from unexpectedly entering your vehicle, and terminate any pests that may be seen in this case by crushing the suspect. If you find a mass of eggs, scrape them into a plastic bag with either rubbing alcohol or hand sanitizer. Remove their favorite food by cutting down any ailanthus tree or tree of heaven to reduce the chances of attracting the invasive species. For additional information, you can visit the state of Michigan's website that is linked in this article from Lily on the Web and the great team over there at the Detroit Free Press. Finally, making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page from the Detroit News' Carol Thompson. Consumers Energy has agreed to power 1,274 state buildings with renewable energy. Michigan and the Consumers Energy Company have entered a 20-year agreement to power just over 1,200 government buildings, just under 1,300 actually, with renewable energy, said the state government and Jackson-based utility announced on Wednesday of this week. The power will come from wind turbines and solar arrays in Michigan, according to Consumers Energy spokesperson Brian Wheeler. The sources will create approximately 68 megawatts of renewable power. Governor Whitmer announced a goal in 2020 to power all of the state's government buildings with renewable energy by 2025. The state is on track to meet that goal at this time, and the Michigan Department of Technology, Management, and Budget spokesperson Caleb Buse had confirmed that. Michigan also contracts with DTE Energy and the Lansing Board of Water and Light to provide renewable power. Buse said he could not provide copies of those contracts as of Wednesday afternoon. Transitioning to exclusively renewable energy will initially increase the cost, he said, but, quote, with the expectation that costs will go down as more investment is placed in renewable energy sources and the price to produce gets less expensive, end closed quote. That's some good news from the state government and from one of our utilities, two entities that often are a cause of mass annoyance to the public, this time doing something good for the public that we can all be happy about. All those headlines on our website at CivicCenterTV.com, on our local news page, as well as those ever helpful links to accurate and up-to-date information on COVID-19, including those new guidelines from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Coming up next, I'll be joined by Karen Faith Gordon from Karen Faith LLC, followed by Oakland University's Michael Greiner at the bottom of the hour. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID. We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine. I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast, our live daily one hour TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Oakland County. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast is Karen Faith Gordon. She is the owner of Karen Faith LLC, providing a number of geriatric services right here in the Oakland County area. Karen, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Tyler. Thank you.
I appreciate having you on. Before we get into more of the details, can you just give us an overview of some of the services that you provide through your business?
Yes, I am a licensed clinical social worker specializing in geriatrics. I accept insurance and Medicare and supplemental insurance, which means that much of the work I do is clinical, people dealing with depression, anxiety, stress, isolation, new diagnoses, and how that affects both the person who's now coping with a diagnosis and their loved ones who are facing a transition, a decline in potentially in their loved ones. So I work a lot one-on-one with individuals, with couples, with families who are working to navigate this journey of aging and what it looks like for each of us.
And I'd be pretty certain that the COVID-19 pandemic, the impact of the last 2.5+ years, has only made that need for those services and the severity of the symptoms that lead to the need for those services so much more significant, and make what you do and what others in your field do so much more important for the more elderly members of our population here.
Yes, thank you for noting that. It's true. The pandemic has amplified exponentially the issues of aging that would come normally and yet now have been in a way intensified by the isolation that the pandemic caused for so many people, especially for clients or for people, and many of my clients who do not have family locally or don't have family or have family members who are placed across the country. And those family members reach out to me seeking information. They want eyes on their loved one. They want to know what they can do, even from afar, to support and guide them in the decisions that need to be made as we get older.
And it's interesting too, because in so many situations, when you have a person reach that age where they start to make some of these considerations, or they start to understand really that they may not be as functional as they'd been before, that their memory may not be as great as before, that's something that's really hard for them to cope with, which leads to some of those issues like depression that you spoke about. And even beyond that, naturally, there are certain ailments that come along with age. How do you work with these individuals and with their families on top of that to help them combat these issues, which often are coinciding with one another and only make dealing with one versus the other, or one individually, that much tougher?
Yes, people are often, especially again in light of the pandemic, there is a sense of feeling startled at the changes that people are recognizing in their loved ones, especially because time together has been so very limited these last 2 years. And so changes that might otherwise have been noticed earlier have not been noticed, or they are things have not been addressed that would have been addressed prior to the pandemic, such as going to the doctor for something. So how I work with families is to, first of all, assure them that what they're experiencing is very much within the scope of, let's say, normal. I hesitate to say normal because we are each different. We have our unique nuances in every single one of us as humans. However, the pervading theme that comes through to me with my families and clients that I see is this sense of deep aloneness, a sense of I am the only one who is experiencing this thing that's happening, and how could anyone ever understand? And the truth is, there are a lot of people experiencing these issues right now, and my voice is one of reassurance and one to guide and offer tools and ways to communicate and have what would otherwise be very difficult conversations, especially when it's between family members who may or may not have already had great communication patterns established. So I, as a third neutral party, being able to come in and facilitate those conversations, whether they're about the diagnosis, what family members, spouses are observing in their loved ones and how to cope with that, end of life conversations, debunking the myths around what hospice actually is and palliative care, what it may look like if someone needs to relocate, it can no longer stay safely at home. These are the conversations I'm immersed in on a daily basis.
And these are also conversations that, as you said, they're tough to have, and they're often, because they're so tough to have, from a logistical standpoint, because not everybody is an expert like you, and that's why you go to businesses like yours, Karen, but also because in some cases, the person that we're having that conversation about may be in denial about the need for that sort of a conversation, or simply their family members. It's a loved one. It's someone you care about, that you're very close with. You don't want to have that conversation. You have to come to terms with the fact that someone in your family or someone you love deeply is on their way out and may be dying very soon, or may need additional care in order to maintain any sort of quality of life. What suggestions do you have then for these families and for these individuals alike to go into those conversations and begin to discuss those necessary moves that need to be made, for quality of life of the individual, but also for transitioning them as their life may be coming to an end.
What I like to do is invite people into a conversation. On the other side of that denial and avoidance and resistance to those conversations, actually are gifts of possibility for connection, possibility to learn new things that might not have been learned had the conversation not been approached. I invite people to think about the ways in which they can connect and let's say restart a new chapter that provides new opportunities, new possibilities. Yes, it may be in the context of end of life, yet how can we honor that and be with it be with those feelings, be present to the experience without feeling like we want to run away or be overwhelmed by it, and truly processing those emotions and feelings in a safe space and having the courage to show up and be vulnerable, and allowing someone like me to guide and facilitate and navigate those conversations. I find it a true honor and privilege to be able to be in that space with families.
We're joined by Karen Faith Gordon. She is the owner of Karen Faith LLC, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. You can go to karenfaith.llc for more information on her services as well as resources on all these matters. Again, that's karenfaith.llc, and we're joined by Karen Faith Gordon, the owner of Karen Faith LLC. You can also find her on a number of different social media. You can find her on LinkedIn. You can also find her at Karen Faith LLC on Instagram and Karen Faith LLC on Facebook as well. Karen, those conversations, having them early can have such an important impact on making those decisions down the line, but also not having to worry about some of the back and forth and the arguing that can often naturally occur when you're having those conversations in the moment of need. I've had similar conversations preemptively with my dad as a result of the experiences that he, his sisters, and his brother went through with my grandfather, and even with, to some extent, with my grandmother, mostly with my grandfather, particularly when it was time for him to no longer safely be behind the wheel driving. My dad and I and my brother have had that conversation, to which my dad just basically said, this is what happened with my dad, this is what happened with your grandfather. In this case, Tyler, when it's time, take my keys away from me. I'm putting that on you because your brother probably won't do it. You, on the other hand, you won't take no for an answer. So those conversations are important. You know, we laugh at it right now, and I think even in the moment, hearing that conversation, having that conversation with my dad and my brother made me chuckle, because I see it as, oh, that's a long ways away. But my dad has MS. His condition changes over time, and eventually that will happen, and it could come sooner than I expect, which is another reason to have these conversations so early.
And kudos to you. I really applaud you for being proactive, for your family to have that capacity to be in those conversations with each other is huge, and puts you, Tyler, miles ahead. And really, I applaud you for that. And also thank you for illuminating something that is a truth in all of this. Everyone has a story. Everyone. None of us is exempt from aging. We're all here, and every moment, each of us is aging, and there are going to be all sorts of conversations that come up along the way. And when we're open to them, we position ourselves in a way of being able to embrace, and maybe not always embrace right away, yet be with these changes and transitions in a way that honors and gives dignity to our lives.
Yeah, and it's a reality of life, whether you are in your teens, in your 20s, or you're in your 80s and your 90s. Eventually, these conversations are going to have to be had, and if you have them in advance, you have a better idea of what you need to do when you get to that point. We're joined by Karen Faith Gordon, founder and owner of Karen Faith LLC, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. You can learn more about her services and find some resources on her website at karenfaith.llc, karenfaith.llc for more information. Karen, how did you get into this particular field? What about working with patients in geriatrics was interesting to you or drew passion from you?
I received my master's of social work degree from University of Michigan, and at the time also received my specialist in aging certificate, which now makes me chuckle because I was 23 years old holding a master's degree and a certificate that said I was a specialist in aging, which I find rather humorous. However, a few decades later, I can honestly say that I perhaps do have more wisdom and life experience that would have me feel really more grounded in talking about myself as a specialist in aging. I was very fortunate to have 4 wonderful grandparents in my life, and examples through my parents of what it looks like to love, honor, and be connected with those older adults, and how rich the history can be when we're, again, interested and connected to those people in our lives. And a lot of people don't have that. And if I can be a space for that connection for people who might not otherwise have it, the gratification, the mutual enjoyment of that connection is extremely fulfilling for me and has been throughout my career.
Well, Karen, I won't hold it against you. You mentioned you have a master's from the University of Michigan. I, on the other hand, if I can put that correctly, I'm a Spartan guy myself. I won't hold it against you. I still very much think what you're doing is fantastic. That being said, let's go back to these services that you provide. People can have these conversations on their own. They can have these conversations in their family. What about having an expert in those conversations, a social worker like yourself, can add to those conversations, make them more productive, and maybe make them easier for everybody to bear?
Well, there are questions that I will ask that will prompt the conversation in ways that may be more productive and maybe set a trajectory that leads to outcomes that are agreed upon by everyone in the family. You mentioned it earlier, it can be extremely difficult to get to that place of agreement when families are in patterns of sort of expectations or perceptions of each other that sort of limit their ability to have certain conversations without some turmoil or conflict. It's very, very normal for several members of a family to have different approaches and different belief systems around what end of life looks like and what approaches they think are appropriate for their loved one. Again, proactively, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to have the person who's of concern in that conversation while they are still of a mind to be able to articulate their wishes. I think that is the greatest gift that can happen for a family, is when the person who's of concern can state their wishes and have, when the time comes for decisions to be made, there does not need to be the turmoil amongst he said, she said, you do it, I was supposed to do it. We are fulfilling the wishes of our person who stated clearly this is what he or she wanted. I also have I'm very blessed. I'm very humbled by the relationships that I've cultivated throughout the years of the work I do. And so as a space of connection, I'm able to connect people to resources that they are going to need in the experiences that they face, whether it's relocation, whether it's finding an appropriate place to relocate to, whether it's finding a professional with whom they can work and feel has integrity and they can trust to guide them beyond the conversations that we have together. So these are the ways in which I can come in and be I can sort of take the ball and run. At the same time, we become a team, a very connected team, and achieve a place of feeling that we're all on the same page. I think coming to those agreements around expectations is incredibly important, and also being a voice of what is possible to expect. We live in an age of information where people might come to the conversation saying, well, I know about this diagnosis because I read about it and I know someone who had it. And that's all well and good. There's space for that in the conversation. However, I'm here to say that I also am, again, immersed in these conversations with so many different individuals and families that I think sometimes I can provide some levity and also some groundedness around what is realistic to expect and what might need to be a little bit shifted or modified so that we don't, hold expectations that can't be met.
We're joined by Karen Faith Gordon, the owner of Karen Faith LLC on the Oakland County Megacast. Karen, another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Any lasting words for those out there that may need to be having these conversations with their families or initiating these conversations with their loved ones, or any other information that would be important to know today that we haven't discussed yet?
I like to remind people that they are not alone, and as much as, and that is not to minimize those feelings and moments of aloneness. It is to say that there are resources, that there are caring professionals such as myself and wonderful colleagues that I feel very privileged to be connected with, who are here to support, to guide, to facilitate. And there are ways to move through these experiences with grace, with peace, and with ease. And it is very normal to feel caught up in the chaos, whether perceived or real, of these experiences that often come unexpectedly. And there is a place to be with someone who can understand and guide and support so that you can move through it with some grace.
KarenFaith.llc for more information. That's her website, KarenFaith.llc. Karen, appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
We'll take a quick break on the Oakland County Megacast. When we come back, inflation, the job market, and more. We'll talk to Michael Greiner, an assistant professor of management at Oakland University, coming up next on the Oakland County Megacast.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine. I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast, our live daily 1-hour TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Oakland County. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast as we continue to deal with a fluctuating economy, inflation, changing gas prices, the job market having tons of jobs open, but maybe not all of them being, or a lot of them being filled, is Michael Greiner, Oakland University Assistant Professor of Management, joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast. Michael, thanks for being with us today.
Great to be here, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you on. Let's start off by talking about the state of the economy that we're in. We've kind of had a lot of fluctuations of late, especially as regards to the impact of inflation on our economy. Let's just talk about what the data is showing right now. What is the state of our economy? Is it in a good spot? Is it trending upward, or is it in a downward spiral? It seems to be we're hearing one or the other.
Well, you're right. We are hearing one or the other because of the fact that this is a crazy time. It's kind of unprecedented right now. You know, I heard a good analogy for the way the economy is right now, which is that imagine when you have a hose that you're filling up with water and you suddenly pinch it to stop it. And there's all this water building up on the one side. Well, when you let go of it, suddenly it's going to spray around like crazy and cause all kinds of trouble. And that's kind of what happened with the economy after we shut it down for COVID. Right now, we're dealing with some very weird indicators. You know, on the one hand, you've got a job market that's incredibly strong. On the other hand, you have an economy that when you look at the gross domestic product, basically the measure of all the activity of the economy, it's actually slowing down and has been for the last 2 quarters. Now, we can kind of tease apart these different measures and try to explain them each in their place. But when you look at them in the aggregate, it just seems like there's this weird situation going on where on the one hand, it seems like the economy is doing well. On the other hand, there's some real issues of concern.
You know, some of those issues of concern are just looking toward the future, given all the influx of cash that was put into the economy during the bulk of the pandemic, given that the impact of some of that cash, particularly the stimulus checks that went out to individuals and those that end up leaving some of their jobs, and the job market as it stands right now, which continues to be in a situation where there are plenty of jobs available, but filling those jobs for these businesses still continues to be a lot tougher than it had been in the past. How much of an impact is that having on projections for the future of our economy?
Well, you know, the big issue there really is the impact that it has on inflation. You know, when employers need to pay more to people to have them come to work there, then what they'll ultimately end up doing is passing that cost on to their customers, which means increased prices, which then kind of leads to inflation. It's kind of this cycle that you can get yourself into where you have wages constantly going up and then you have prices going up. And we actually refer to this as the wage price cycle. And there's a real concern. That's what the Federal Reserve, frankly, is trying to avoid right now and trying to kind of put a stop to. Because once you get into that, it's very, very hard to undo. And we'd probably need to go into a severe recession before you'd see that undone. I mean, that's what happened in the early 1980s. Many of our viewers probably remember that. But the hope is right now we can kind of slow things down just enough that we won't have inflation going up so much, and we'll kind of get some a little bit more stability into the markets right now. And if we're able to do that without going into a serious recession, then they'll have accomplished what their goal is, which is what they call a soft landing.
We're joined by Michael Greiner, Assistant Professor of Management at Oakland University in their University School of Business Administration, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. You can find more information on all their programs at Oakland University, including in their School of Business Administration at oakland.edu. That's oakland.edu. For more information, as we continue to talk about the job numbers and inflation and really just the continued impact that inflation has in all sectors of our economy. Some people still don't really have a full understanding of what inflation is, how it affects the economy, and beyond that, what do we do to get away from these lingering effects of inflation that seem to have been going on for forever at this point in our current state of the economy. So just give us a little bit of insight. What is inflation? What kind of leads to it? And what can we do to combat it?
Well, you're right about the fact that inflation is kind of a tough situation right now. And what inflation is, by definition, is it's basically an average increase in prices across the board. So there's a lot of talk a lot of the time about, say, for example, gas prices going up, going down, kind of bouncing around. And obviously, we all have to deal with gas prices on a daily basis because we have to go and fill our cars, right? But when the Federal Reserve, which is the main I guess the controller of our monetary supply, what they do is that they actually look at a measure that excludes things like energy and foods, things that bounce around a lot more, because the fact that that really can kind of vary from day to day and really take you off your game, I guess, a little bit. The most recent inflation report actually was somewhat encouraging. It was basically flat from last month. In other words, there was no average increase in prices from last month. And that had to do with the fact that a couple of specific items that had been driving inflation, that have been driving the prices up, really seem to have stabilized a little bit. And those include things like the gas prices coming down. I mean, I'm sure, again, everybo's seen it when you go to the gas station. Now you can get gas under $4 a gallon, which is pretty good compared to what we've been dealing with recently. So that has helped. There's also something that's kind of less visible, been a reduction in airfares, for example, and housing costs have also started to stabilize a little bit. And those are things that have really been driving up inflation. But since it's an average, you'll have certain little things that will be jumping way up. And then other things that might not be. And it seems like, depending upon how much you're relying upon those things that increase in price a lot, that, inflation might be really high, as opposed to if you're just buying things that where inflation doesn't increase a lot, that it wouldn't necessarily feel so overwhelming. But the reality is that since we've had the COVID shutdown, and the bounce back from it, you've had this shifting driver of inflation, where at first it was like used cars, if you can believe it, where there was a shortage of used cars and people were buying them up like crazy. And because of the fact that there was this shortage of semiconductors resulting from problems with the supply chains, I don't want to get into all the details there, then all of a sudden used cars were really expensive. And that was driving up inflation, even though it was just one thing relative to this whole basket of goods that people are buying. So you kind of look at this big picture here, and how much is it impacting people? Well, it varies based upon what you're buying. But the Fed tries to look at this kind of average basket to see how much it's increasing. Now, what created it, frankly, I'll tell you, I think you intimated to it earlier, is the fact that when we had this COVID shutdown, basically the government sent out a lot of money. So people actually had money in their bank accounts. It's really the first recession we've ever had where people's net worth actually went up on average, and the level of inequality actually went down. It's kind of amazing, actually, when you think about it. Yes, what that meant is afterwards, then there were kind of these supply chain issues. So on the one side, the supply side was kind of jammed up. On the other side, people had lots of money and they wanted to spend it. So you can see where with the supply and demand curve, that old thing that we all learned in Economics 101, suddenly you have a lot of supply, demand is really kind of messed up, and that's going to drive up the prices. And so that's, I think, a lot of what we've seen lately. And there are other little things out there, but I think that's the biggest driver of what's going on. Now, it's worth noting, by the way, that this is a global phenomenon. This is not just something in the United States. But I think that, certainly we've seen it impacted here in the United States as a result of, the policy decisions we made. But, I think it's important for us to kind of bear in mind here, would people really have wanted to do anything differently? Inflation's a bummer now. Don't get me wrong. I'm with you. It is slowing, so that's encouraging. But still, it's way too high. But by the same token, would people have preferred that we come out of this last recession very slowly, with lots of people losing their jobs and losing their homes, the way we did in the last recession? I think generally speaking, people would probably prefer the fact that we did send out the money and that we did kind of take care of people and help them through this recession so that we could bounce back as quickly as possible. But what right now the Federal Reserve is trying to do is that they're kind of trying to slow down demand a little bit by increasing interest rates, and that's what they do. So basically, it makes it more expensive to borrow money to buy things, and that impacts people trying to buy new homes, trying to buy new cars. It impacts businesses trying to expand their businesses. And in so doing, by reducing demand, they hope to kind of even out the supply and demand sides to make it then that inflation isn't going up so much. And that's basically what they're trying to do now.
We're joined by Michael Greiner, Assistant Professor of Management in the Oakland University School of Business, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. You can find more information on everything happening at Oakland University, including in their School of Business, by visiting oakland.edu. That's oakland.edu for more information. One of the measures that's been taken in order to try to combat inflation was the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act. Among the highlights and provisions in this are the creation of a 15% minimum corporate tax rate. IRS tax enforcement reform as well has been thrown in there. It's been in some comparisons, particularly from Forbes. It's been compared as a smaller version of the president's Build Back Better initiative earlier on in the year. In terms of what this legislation does, how does it go about trying to combat inflation in some of the ways that you had mentioned before that are methods for turning back the clock a little bit on where inflation goes?
Well, here, I think we need to kind of acknowledge the role of politics a little bit, because the reality of this legislation, frankly, and don't get me wrong, I think this is fantastic legislation, but it's not really an inflation bill. There are certain measures that in the long run will impact inflation, namely that they're going to pay down the deficit a little bit, which that's a good thing, because what that does is it kind of increases what we call aggregate demand, which means that there's not as much money flowing around in the economy. That in the long run will decrease inflation a little bit. Similarly, increasing some of the corporate taxes, that also kind of, again, takes a little bit of money out of circulation, which that also then decreases demand. But really, those are long-term things. In terms of dealing with the short-run inflation that we're dealing with right now, those really aren't the major impacts of this legislation. The truth of the matter is, this legislation is fundamentally a climate bill and a healthcare bill. And those two things it does incredibly well. And you're right about the fact that it has been called a scaled down version of the Build Back Better bill. But what's most amazing about this legislation is how it is almost the entire climate program that was originally proposed as part of the $2+ trillion Build Back Better bill untouched. I mean, it's almost the whole thing. Similarly, that's the case for some of the controls that they now have, where they're able to negotiate Medicare drug prices, which that also could potentially reduce some costs as well. So that's very good. Basically, what you see kind of stripped out of the Build Back Better bill were things like a lot of the social spending programs, things like childcare and educational support, and getting rid of student loans, things like that. A lot of those things have been taken out of the legislation, but what we were left with really was a very, very good environmental piece of legislation and healthcare piece of legislation.
Yeah, just to back up what you said on this not really being much of an inflation-targeted piece of legislation, a nonpartisan research-based organization at the University of Pennsylvania, according to an article in Forbes, had said, and this is the Penn Wharton budget model, had said that it has low confidence, and closed quote, in the legislation having any impact on inflation whatsoever. We're joined by Michael Greiner. He is an assistant professor of management at Oakland University's School of Business, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Michael, a few more minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Another part of the Inflation Reduction Act that's been making a lot of headlines this week is the amount of money that's also been put forth in that bill going toward the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS. In particular, about $45 billion for enforcement alone. There are some reports that are saying that the IRS may hire upwards of 87,000 additional agents in order to combat discrepancies in taxes and go after those that maybe have not been correct on their taxes or have been evading taxes in some ways or others. Is that report, we've heard reports that that's going to happen. We've heard other reports that the IRS is not in fact going to hire any new people, or that they're not going to go after those in the middle class. What do you know about this issue? And if the IRS does add more agents, who may that mostly affect in the U.S.?
Well, I think the best way I've heard the IRS described at one point was by a friend of mine who talked about it as being a collection agency. And when you look at it within that window, you have to remember, what are they going to go after? They're going to go after the places where there's the most money. I know that it feels to most of us in the middle class that, we're being taxed to death. I mean, I feel this, I hate seeing that tax money taken out of my check as much as the next guy. But the reality is that what we're dealing with is small potatoes here. The kinds of things that the IRS is going to be going after are the multimillionaires, multi-billionaires, large corporations that aren't paying what they're supposed to. And the reality is that this is actually kind of a correction what they're doing here, because for the last 10 years or so, there's been an effort among some circles in Congress to try to essentially starve the IRS, to make it as difficult as possible for the IRS to try to collect on what it's owed. Now, you have to remember, most of us pay what we owe. Because of the fact that we have jobs. I'm sure that you, like me, we have a job, we get a paycheck, the money for our taxes is withheld from that job. So we basically pay everything. The people who are at issue are the people who own for businesses, for example, and they're able to essentially hide how much they're paying, and they don't have it just taken out of their paycheck every 2 weeks because of the fact that they don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks. That at the end of the year, they kind of do this thing with their accountants where they figure out, oh, this is how much profit I made, this is how much my expenses were, and so this is how much I owe, and then they try to massage that as much as possible to pay as little in taxes as possible. It's hard to blame them, but we have a situation now where things have gone too far over to one side because of the fact that now they're able to get away with this stuff, and there's nobody guarding the hen house. There's nobody watching to make sure that these people, even though they are allowed certain tax deductions, that they're not overdoing it or claiming too much. And so as a result, it's pretty clear based upon most studies that there are billions, billions of dollars that are not being collected that could easily be collected if we just had the enforcement efforts. And that's really what this legislation is targeting. Any kind of talk about it, going after the middle class or anything. We pay our taxes, it gets taken out of our paycheck every 2 weeks. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about big business. They're talking about people who own major assets. If you're not one of the top 1% or even top 0.1%, this is not going to affect you.
Michael, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
When there's more business news, we'll head to Michael Greiner at Oakland University, Assistant Professor of Management in their School of Business Administration. You can find more information, of course, on all the programs at Oakland University, including in their School of Business Administration, by visiting oakland.edu. We'll take a break on your radio homes for the Megacast 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills, as well as the remainder of our network. When we return, we'll kick off the Michigan Megacast talking about travel. A lot of travel coming up in this edition of the Michigan Megacast. Up next, one woman from Michigan made a website to help you find some of those hidden gems in all regions of the state all throughout the year. Jill Halpin from My Michigan Beach joins us next on the Michigan Megacast.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine. I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Welcome to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft, welcoming you to our live 5 days a week look into all things Michigan. Today, we'll be talking to Michigan travel experts and more about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Learn more about the program on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV, our co-flagship. Joining us now on the Michigan Megacast is one woman who has committed a lot of time, energy, and information into helping you travel the great state of Michigan all throughout the year, no matter where you are going in the state of Michigan. That includes our wonderful Michigan beaches, but also far and beyond our shorelines. Jill Halpin joins us now on the Michigan Megacast, the owner and the founder of My Michigan Beach. Jill, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Tyler. Thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate having you on. First off, tell us about My Michigan Beach, what sort of information it provides to people in Michigan and visiting Michigan, and how you came up with the idea.
Okay, so I started My Michigan Beach in 2019, late in 2019. I'm a lifelong Michigan resident. I grew up spending all my summers on the beaches of Michigan, sailing, swimming, splashing on the shores. As an adult, I continued to do the same thing. I split my time between Southeast Michigan and up north on Lake Huron. And as I started to share some of my travel and adventures throughout Michigan, I realized there's a lot of people who were so surprised by how much our state has to offer, from outdoor recreation, fun things to do, hiking trails, beautiful, beautiful natural areas. And so I have a background as a journalist and a librarian. So I love to share information. So I got into web development, user experience, and I developed My Michigan Beach website, and we had a fabulous response.
And so it's more than just exploring beaches in Michigan. It's exploring activities all throughout the state, not only in the summer months, but all throughout the year. So when you're compiling these guides and this information for people that are visiting the state, and even for those that are already in Michigan and just looking for a new place to travel, what sort of information are you looking for? What stands out as special to you?
Well, we want to make sure that we provide information that's relevant, up to date, and that really gets to the heart of what someone is looking for when they travel. So things that are important, things like, can I take my dog with me? I take my dog with me everywhere. So I think there's a lot of people like me. So we try and include information on places that are dog friendly. If you're somebody like that, here's a tip. Kirk Park has a fabulous dog beach that's over in Holland. You're not going to want to miss that. Things that are important and that stand out are information about ADA accessibility. A lot of communities are really realizing how important this is. And as I travel through the state, I'll notice different features like mobility mats to help someone get down to the beach. Maybe a community has a beach wheelchair free for usage. A lot of them do. Track wheelchairs at state parks. These are fabulous things. Those are the kinds of things that we try and include in all of our information that we share with people.
We're joined by Jill Halpin. She is the founder of My Michigan Beach, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More info can be found, as well as all their travel guides for the summer, for the fall, and all seasons in Michigan on a number of different activities by visiting mymichiganbeach.com. mymichiganbeach.com for more information as she joins us on the Megacast. And so, Jill, talking about all these different locations and ADA compliance, and then with that comes the idea of safety, particularly on Michigan's beaches. We've already had so many reports this summer of tragic events, or at the very least scary and dangerous events on many of Michigan's waterways from people not necessarily following safety guidelines or rules in place at many of Michigan's beaches and state parks. My Michigan Beach is partnered with the Great Lakes Water Safety Consortium. Can you tell us about that partnership and how you are instituting safety information too into this travel information for people wanting to experience tourism in Michigan?
Oh, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that is such an important thing. We partnered with Great Lakes Water Safety Consortium to share their messaging, to promote them on social media, to do anything that we can to assist with the efforts to keep our beaches safer. You're right, it's a scary thing. People need to be aware. Momentum, I think, is starting to pick up a little bit in that area. We need to keep it going. Beach safety is something that goes right along with keeping your beaches clean. I mean, it's just so important.
We're joined by Jill Halpin. She is the founder of My Michigan Beach, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. You can find more information on My Michigan Beach, as well as all their helpful guides and more information on all different regions of Michigan during all different seasons of the year. We are a state that very much experiences all 4 seasons here in Michigan by visiting their website, mymichiganbeach.com. mymichiganbeach.com. It's that easy. And so many people are going to be, as we approach the fall season, and we're still a ways away, there's plenty of summer left, but as you go into the fall, one thing that people really look forward to is the foliage and the colors in Michigan, especially in very natural areas of the state that you see in mid-Michigan, certainly up north. So for you, as we're approaching the fall season, what are some of the locations in Michigan that My Michigan Beach is keeping an eye on, in particular when it comes to fall foliage and the fall colors?
Oh, I'm so glad that you brought that up. I actually just finished our fall color prediction, and it looks like it's going to be a really warm month. They're predicting a warm season. They're predicting warm weather through the fall, but it's also possibly going to be a little rainy, so that could cut it a little short. So we'll be keeping our eye on that. One place that's spectacular and starts to get the color early is the Keweenaw Peninsula, Copper Harbor. And when you see that contrast of the bright golds and yellows against that deep blue of Lake Superior, I mean, it is stunning. It's just gorgeous. Another place that is a little bit closer in the northern lower peninsula, Akiak Falls. It's near a place, it's in the northeast corner, north of Alpena, near Rogers City. It's the only waterfalls in the lower peninsula, and they're little falls, but they're just beautiful, and that whole area is just lights up with color. It's gorgeous. Obviously, Sleeping Bear Dunes is beautiful. Glen Arbor, stunning. You know, if you walk on those trails, you'll come through beach forests and hardwoods that are just absolutely brilliant.
We're joined by Jill Halpin. She is the founder of My Michigan Beach, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. You can find more info on My Michigan Beach on their website, mymichiganbeach.com, and including some of the guides that Jill and her team have put together, including their ultimate guide, the Kensington Metro Park in the Metro Detroit area, in the Oakland County area, on the west side of the state. If you are going to one of the favorite Michigan summer destinations, that's Grand Haven, Michigan. She has a list of the best beaches in Grand Haven to enhance your experience, as well as those looking throughout the state of Michigan as we continue on in the summer months, those last couple months of swimming in the best Michigan lakes for swimming in the state. All those lists and more on My Michigan Beach's website, mymichiganbeach.com. That's mymichiganbeach.com. You also have a shop on there, so if people want to represent some of their favorite places in Michigan that they've gone, either at your suggestion or that they found all over the years, they can go to michiganbeachstore.com. Tell us about some of the products that people can get on that website and how they're inspired.
Well, people have their favorite Michigan beaches. You know, if you're a Michigander, especially, you have your special spot, and people love to rep that. So we have hoodies, we have bags, we have T-shirts, mugs. We even have masks for COVID. We have just about anything you might want to have with slogans on there like "Life's just a beach," "Playing in the sand," all kinds of fun things like that. And you can order exactly what you want and have it delivered directly to you.
We're joined by Jill Halpin on the Michigan Megacast, founder of My Michigan Beach, and you can find more information on the website, mymichiganbeach.com, mymichiganbeach.com, or shop for some of those products she just talked about that represent a variety of different destinations across the state of Michigan at michiganbeachstore.com. The shop is at michiganbeachstore.com. All the great info on a variety of different places, recreation, events, and more at mymichiganbeach.com as well. And what's great too is you have all this information in all these different places, all these different destinations, different experiences people can undergo across the state. But you also are helping people make those a little bit more affordable, or get some of those win some of those experiences too. You partner with a number of resorts and wineries across the state, as well as local businesses for giveaways. Can you tell us about some of those partnerships and how people maybe can sign up for maybe winning some of those experiences or products?
Yes, that's one of our, that's something that we really enjoy doing. We partner with different resorts, hotels, wineries, businesses, and offer promotions and giveaways through our website. We have one right now, which is actually really, really fabulous opportunity to win a Torch Lake kayaking trip for 6 people. And what that is, it's a 3-hour guided kayak trip, but the best part of it is that they're in clear kayaks, so you can see the bottom while you're kayaking. And I'm sure you know about Torch Lake, stunning blue color. If you're somebody who likes to hunt for Petoskey stones or keep your eye out for wildlife, fish and turtles, Clearwater Kayaks in Traverse City is our partner with this one, and it is a fantastic opportunity. You just need to go to our website. You can go to our homepage, mymichiganbeach.com. We've got a link that'll direct you to our kayaking page where you can go ahead and enter. We're asking people to tell us what their favorite lake is in Michigan for an opportunity to win this trip.
Again, more information, mymichiganbeach.com, including all the different lists ranking a number of different experiences in Michigan, as well as their guides to all things Michigan by season, by lake, by activity. So much great information on their website, mymichiganbeach.com. We're joined by Jill Halpin, the founder of My Michigan Beach, on the Michigan Megacast. If you're just tuning in, you can watch this interview in full on our website at civiccentertv.com, on our Megacast page, as well as on My Michigan TV on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at mymytv.com. My Michigan TV is your home to find more information from this interview on My Michigan Beach with Jill Halpin, the founder of the organization. Jill, another minute with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else that would be important for our audience to know at this time about My Michigan Beach, or upcoming lists and information people should be on the lookout for at mymichiganbeach.com?
Well, one of the things that put us on the map, so to speak, is our Michigan travel and beach map. It's an interactive map where you can just go ahead and click on that map, and it takes you directly to the location. It'll give you guides with the recommendations on the best things to do, places to eat, where to stay, don't miss activities, anything that you might want to know. And that's our Michigan Beach and Travel map. It's updated regularly, and we're adding locations almost daily.
MyMichiganBeach.com is where you'll find all this information, as well as updated lists and information on other activities popping up all across the state of Michigan. MyMichiganBeach.com. We've been joined by Jill Halpin, the founder of My Michigan Beach. Jill, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tyler. I really appreciate it. Hope you get an opportunity to get out there and get on the beach this summer.
Well, first thing I got to do is go to MyMichiganBeach.com and learn about some of the great opportunities all throughout the state of Michigan, every single region, whether you're up north in the Upper Peninsula, west side of the state, southeastern Michigan, where we originate our broadcast, or other areas of Michigan. There's always a lot to learn about the great state of Michigan and all the opportunities we have for fun and interest all throughout the Great Lakes state. We'll take a break on the Michigan Megacast. On the other side, we'll continue to talk about all those great opportunities with Otie McKinley from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. That's up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine. I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast, our live daily 1-hour TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including our co-flagship station, My Michigan TV, which you can find at mymytv.com, as well as more info on where you can download their free apps for your smartphones and your smart TVs and enjoy My Michigan TV programming, both original and imported from creators across the Great Lakes state, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Joining us now on the Michigan Megacast is Otie McKinley. He is the Media and Communications Manager at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, or MEDC. Odie, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, hello, Tyler. Great to be here. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, appreciate having you on. So this is one of those times of the year when, in terms of tourism and travel in the state of Michigan, that's kind of that in-between zone. Many people get really excited when they go into the summer season. Finally, I can get back out to the beaches. There's all these festivals. I can travel all around the state. It's a great time of the year. The fall, they get excited about the foliage and about about the cider mills. In the winter, they get excited about skiing or other winter opportunities. But it seems like in between the seasons is where that passion maybe goes away a little bit, or it's a little bit more of a question of, well, what can I do right now? That being said, there's still so much to do in this late summer, in the dog days of summer, as we're heading into the fall in Michigan. What are some of the more exciting opportunities and experiences that are still available as we finish up the summer here in Michigan?
Well, while some people kind of do consider this the transition season because kids are going back to school, maybe summer travel is wrapping up for some families, I would argue that this is a fantastic time of year. Long weekends, the beautiful weather, you're still going to experience great summer here in Michigan, but it is also planning season. Planning trips up to the UP or Northern Michigan for, as you mentioned, the fall color tours. But also it is winter ski season planning time, because over the past few years, the ski resorts have gotten busier and busier, which is fantastic for the communities and the small businesses around them. But we recommend, if you're looking to plan some ski trips in the UP, there's some incredible trip ideas for the Western UP. It's time to start those plans.
We're joined by Otie McKinley, Media and Communications Manager at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. And this is a great time of the year, too, because on the weather side, it's really nice outside. It's still sunny. It's still warm. The humidity's starting to go down, too, so you can spend actually more time outside without it getting to the point of being unbearable. And that invites for a lot of great travel experiences and sightseeing experiences at some of Michigan's outdoor locations all throughout the state. What are some of the favorites at this time of the year for you personally, or that you would recommend to those looking to come into Michigan and explore all the great landscapes and different sites here in our state?
Well, as you mentioned, it is a great time of year because the days are still sunny and warm, so you can still enjoy being out and about, either on the beach or in a downtown urban center. But the nights are a little cooler, so it's a great time. And pure Michigan, right? We've got two peninsulas, and both of them offer incredibly dynamic and diverse travel opportunities. From experiencing downtown Detroit, I don't think a lot of people think of downtown Detroit as a tourism destination or a vacation destination, but what a dynamic city that Detroit has become, with the food scene, the culture, the riverfront, Campus Martius, the communities in Detroit, just a great location. But then conversely, the Western UP, what a gorgeous area with Porcupine Mountain Wilderness Park, some 60,000 acres of wilderness that affords just almost limitless opportunities, from hiking, biking, paddling, the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, all season trail. The state has everything to offer, and certainly all of the shorelines and the Great Lakes that Michigan is known for.
We're joined by Otie McKinley from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. He's their Media and Communications Manager, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on all these locations, including other activities that you can do at some of these many great stops along all areas of the state of Michigan, can be found at michigan.org. Michigan.org for more information on all these different places. And as you talk about planning travel for the future, I think the most immediate plans that would want to be undertaken would be for the fall foliage. What are some of those locations in Michigan that maybe aren't the most heavily traveled or the greatest attractions for seeing the foliage that you would suggest people maybe look into this year to have the best chance to get some really great sights, but maybe not as much of a crowded situation?
Yeah, the northern portion of the lower peninsula is often a hotspot destination because of the convenience. But if you're willing to put in just a little more time, head up across the bridge and get into northern Upper Peninsula or western Upper Peninsula, the The colors start turning a little sooner just because of the geography of the area. But to get, west into Ironwood, Wakefield, Bessemer, or up into the Keweenaw Peninsula, Copper Harbor, Houghton, Hancock, all great communities with certainly plenty of hotel options, food options, but you can get that downtown experience in these communities, but within minutes you are in the wilderness. And road trips in the area at that time of year are breathtaking. And it does take a little more time to get up there, don't get me wrong, but you also separate yourself from some of the crowds that can be seen at some of the more popular fall color tour destinations.
We're joined by Otie McKinley from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation on the Michigan Megacast. Again, all that information and more can be found at michigan.org. Michigan.org for more information on all areas of the great state of Michigan and some of the many activities you can find all along the way. One of the great places people love to go within a major metropolitan area, so they can find activities in the city, but also some of those outer city activities that they enjoy is by going to places like Belle Isle. But another great location that's a little bit of the same feel, but outside of the city, is Isle Royale. You have an article that's up on the Michigan.org website or connected to it. Things to do at Isle Royale National Park, the ultimate pure Michigan guide. What are some of those fun things that people can do at Isle Royale that maybe they aren't necessarily always thinking about when they think about Northern Michigan or they think about some of these destination locations?
Well, again, an area that is a little less populated with travelers, but like so many other areas in the state, being on the shoreline, the wilderness, the trails, being able to backpack camp, and just get out and enjoy. And that there's it's not going to be as busy as some of the other tourism destinations.
We're joined by Otie McKinley from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation on the Michigan Megacast. As always, your trip begins at michigan.org for more information. There's also another great article on your website recently, and it's entitled 5 Stops for a One-Tank Road Trip in the Western Upper Peninsula. You mentioned the Western Upper Peninsula is a great place for seeing the fall foliage that maybe is a little bit less crowded. What about now in this time of the year or in the next few weeks is also really interesting about the Western Upper Peninsula, because it's not really one of those places that people necessarily are thinking about right away when they're thinking of different destinations to go in the state of Michigan, but there's so much interest and so many different activities that you can do in the Western UP.
Oh, there is. And again, the article is, 5 stop on a 1-tank road trip. But depending on where you're coming from, it might be more than 1 tank. But once you're in Western UP or starting off in the northern part of the Keweenaw Peninsula and Copper Harbor, again, it's just such a dynamic road trip opportunity. Starting in Copper Harbor up on Lake Superior, you've got the Copper Harbor Lighthouse boat tours, the scenic Brockway Mountain Drive. But as you mentioned a moment ago, if you've got a little extra time, take the ferry over to Isle Royale. It's the country's only island national park. So there's some unique opportunities there. Again, we can just go on and on. Houghton, great town. In the winter, Michigan Tech University has their winter carnival, which is such a neat experience. Cross the bridge to Hancock, the famous the Portage Canal lift bridge, and you're into Hancock, where you can experience 2 different towns but so close together. Interesting little fact about Hancock: the street signs are written in both English and Finnish, which is a nod to the city's Finnish heritage. When you're in Hancock, Quincy Mine Tour is a really neat opportunity to literally descend down into the old copper mines and just, you can imagine and feel what it was like when it was an active mine. Calumet, Ironwood, the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, again, as I mentioned, a full year-round trail for biking, walking, ORVing, snowmobiling, cross-country skiing, bird watching, just on and on and on. But, as I mentioned, Porky Mountains Wilderness State Park, 60,000 acres of wilderness, 150 waterfalls in the area. I mean, there's the options are seemingly limitless. So I am so biased to that area. It is such a great place to go and experience.
Odie, your team at the MEDC really has the pulse on the entire state of Michigan. You're running the Pure Michigan campaign. You're running Michigan.org, where it has such extensive information on travel, events, and other happenings all throughout the Great Lakes State. We talk so much about travel in the Upper Peninsula and up north, so to speak, in Michigan. So I got to ask a controversial question too.
Oh boy!
And I think you understand what's coming at you on this one. People have different definitions of what's considered up north. In your opinion, or in your team's opinion, where does up north in Michigan begin?
Oh, that is such a controversial question. I will not speak for the entire team because everyone has different opinions of what up north means to them. I feel like when you get north of the Clare area, then you, in my mind, are kind of experiencing, you are now in the up north of the lower peninsula. But that said, that's a tough question. Easy question, tough answer.
Yeah, it's your answer is a little bit further north than mine. I actually am in the camp of Zilwaukee Bridge is the location. Once you cross the Zilwaukee Bridge, you're in up north. But even that's right. That's a little bit of a controversial take and a hotter take too, because that's right around the middle of the lower peninsula. So people say that's not north enough to be considered up north. That's usually the response that I get is, no, you're way, way too far south on that answer. But Claire, that's a pretty good answer too, because that's right about the point where you've passed the midway point of Michigan. You've passed that area of the thumb for the most part, and you're heading toward the upper peninsula. But everyone, as you said, has a different opinion.
Yeah. So
it's all about what feels like up north to you.
It is all about your experience, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And you do not need to be up north to have that pure Michigan experience. So it up north is wherever you feel like you are on vacation, right? It's a feeling. It's not a geographic destination.
Absolutely. We are joined by Otie McKinley, the Media and Communications Manager at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation on the Michigan Megacast. As always, your trip begins at michigan.org, where you can find information on up north, wherever that is in your mind, and other locations all throughout the great state of Michigan. Odie, another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else that people should be keeping in mind as they continue to travel this summer, as they're making their plans for the fall or even the winter and beyond for the rest of this year and into next year, or other information we haven't discussed yet today?
One thing I would like to throw out there is Michigan is only number 2 in the country for the number of ski resorts that we have, or ski areas. Incredible opportunity to ski across from Southwest Michigan and Metro Detroit area to the Western UP. But one really neat experience, I believe, is that skiing in the Western UP. Within 15 minutes of one another, you have 3 different ski areas with over 650 skiable acres. So one of them is Big Snow Resort, which consists of Indian Head and Blackjack. Those are owned by the same property, Big Snow Resort. Unique opportunity there is you can ski Indian Head in the morning and Blackjack in the afternoon with the same lift ticket. Then the next day, head over and ski Big Powderhorn for a normal weekend. But if you've got a 3-day weekend, just 45 minutes north is Porcupine Mountains ski area. So again, a bit of a drive to get there, but that's all right, because once you're there, you've got 4 ski areas that are incredible ski areas in a very close proximity. And I think that's a unique opportunity for this year, with people maybe still not 100% okay with flying, to be able to drive to that and get 4 different ski area experiences in a long weekend, I think is a really unique opportunity.
Well, Odie, we appreciate your time and appreciate your insight and advice on travel all throughout the state of Michigan. Thanks for being with us today.
Tyler, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Your trip begins, as always, at michigan.org. We'll take a break on the Michigan Megacast. On the other side, we'll be joined by Lindsay Karras. She is the Director of Development at Unified HIV Health and Beyond, one of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform. This is the Michigan Megacast.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the Michigan Megacast is one of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform. Leanne Savola is the president of Unified HIV Health and Beyond and joins us now on the Michigan Megacast. Leanne, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate having you on. First off, can you just give us a little bit of background on what your organization does and some of its history and the services it provides?
Sure. So Unified HIV Health and Beyond is the result of a merger between two longstanding AIDS service organizations here in Michigan. HARC, which was in Ypsilanti, and then AIDS Partnership Michigan, which had been in Detroit. So in 2015, those two organizations came together to strengthen our response to HIV, STIs, hepatitis, and the opioid epidemic. So we serve 10 counties here in Southeast Michigan. And we are relentless in trying to keep our community healthy and to support our clients in striving. So we offer a range of services from prevention to care. Our prevention services are education and outreach to the community, HIV and STI testing, along with hepatitis C testing, harm reduction services, including syringe access and naloxone distribution. And then we have care services. So for people living with HIV, we offer linkage to medical care, insurance navigation, medical case management, including a specialized program for individuals who are exiting jail or prison. And then we have support groups, tobacco use reduction, housing, emergency financial assistance. So we really try to provide a range of services that can help our clients stay healthy.
In terms of getting in contact with these clients and helping these individuals out or giving them access to these resources, how does that relationship begin? Are you reaching out to these individuals? Are they referred to you?
It's a combination. So we're reaching out to the community, making sure they're aware of what services we offer. We have relationships with numerous health systems like Henry Ford, Michigan Medicine. So we're getting referrals directly from medical providers. And then we have relationships with other community organizations, as well as the local health departments. And then sometimes people find us online or they use our statewide HIV STI hotline to get in touch with us.
We're joined by Leanne Savola, the president at Unified HIV Health and Beyond, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. You can find more information on Share Detroit's website at sharedetroit.org by going to their Find a Nonprofit section and searching for Unified. You can also find them on miunified.org. miunified.org is their direct website for more information on research services, resources, and more, as well as ways you can get in contact with them. Again, that's miunified.org or sharedetroit.org for more information. And there's so many parallels between the beginning of the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the 80s and what we're seeing now at the beginning of the spread of monkeypox in the United States and in many places throughout the world. You have a link to monkeypox symptoms and more information on your website. Have you noticed of late, as more cases have spread in the state of Michigan and throughout the U.S. and the world, in some cases, that there's been a greater concern over monkeypox? And given that there are so many parallels there, particularly about in terms of the impact of monkeypox on the LGBTQIA plus community, similar to HIV at its beginning of its epidemic in the 80s, how does your organization then address informing the community about monkeypox in a similar way to HIV/AIDS?
Yeah, so we've been really active on our social media accounts, trying to spread any new information that's being released by the federal or state health departments. We want to make sure that people understand how it could impact them and that there's resources available. We're doing the same with all of our clients. When we're meeting with them, we're asking them if they have symptoms, helping them connect to medical care if they need that. And one thing we're also doing is really talking about how do we talk about this disease without stigmatizing populations. The reason HIV was in the MSM or gay population at the beginning of the epidemic is because it got into the sexual network. People are having sex, and that's how it's transmitted, right? There wasn't anything special about how gay men were having sex. And we're seeing the same discussions around monkeypox, where people are focusing on gay men or the LGBTQIA community. And we really want people to know that this is a disease that can impact anyone. It's really about if it's in your network, your social network, your sexual network. So we want everyone to recognize the symptoms and know if they're not feeling well, that they can reach out and their support through organizations like Unified, as well as their local health department.
Yeah, it's so critical that as communities are addressing monkeypox, that they learn from the misgivings of the HIV/AIDS epidemic and the ways that, as you said, that was so focused as being men who have sex with men or a gay disease at that point, and it really put a stigma on HIV and AIDS, which eventually led to a situation where those that were afflicted with HIV/AIDS and those that were in a position to potentially contract HIV or AIDS were not in a position to be helped by their community. And certainly there are better ways to go about that we've learned from the past and hopefully can prove that we've learned with monkeypox. We're joined by Leanne Savola, the president of Unified HIV Health and Beyond, one of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform on the Michigan Megacast. For those that may be interested in your services or in your resources, how can they best go about tapping into those resources and getting involved with Unified?
Yeah, so the best way probably is our website, miunified.org. It's a great place to start. You'll learn about our services as well as our 3 offices. We have offices in Detroit, Jackson, and Ypsilanti. You can also use the website to find our phone number, call any of those offices, and they're going to connect you to the right program. And then we do host the HIV STI hotline for the state of Michigan, and that you can reach us there at 800-872-2437.
More information can be found on the website, miunified.org. Again, locations in Detroit, Ypsilanti, and Jackson, and you can call their hotline for more information across the board with their organization or to get in contact with any of those general offices at 800-872-2437, 800-872-2437 for more information. Leanne Savola, the president of Unified HIV Health and Beyond, joins us on the Michigan Megacast. You have some upcoming events that are coming up, including a back-to-school event. Your Hall Pass Back-to-School Bash is coming up. Tell us about that event, how it benefits your organization, and what you'll be doing at this particular event.
Yeah, this event is open to anyone in the community. It's going to be held at our office, which is at Mount Elliott in Gratiot in Detroit. It's August 29th, starting at 2 p.m., going to about 6 p.m. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to, the theme is a carnival. So there's going to be games and chances to win prizes, as well as to access services. So we'll have HIV and STIs testing available. We'll have safer sex supplies, as well as other giveaways, school supplies, things like that. So we're really excited. We've invited some other community organizations to join with us in putting this on. And really, we just want people to know going back to school is a great time to think about your sexual health. Come out for a test and learn some information, and there's going to be lots of fun too.
And more information, again, can be found at miunified.org or on shareofdetroit.org, where you can find information on Unified HIV Health and Beyond, as well as over 300 other charities and nonprofits. Just go to shareofdetroit.org, click on their Find Nonprofits link, and you can search for Unified and find not only their website and their contact information, but opportunities for employment or volunteer opportunities. Maybe you can help them out with some items that they need or other organizations that they may need, physical items off of their wish lists that will be helpful to the services that they provide. And of course, for more information on donating. We're joined by Leanne Savola, the president of Unified HIV Health and Beyond on the Michigan Megacast. For those that do want to get involved beyond attending the events or tapping into these resources, what sort of volunteer opportunities are available for people that want to help with your mission and spreading the word and the resources that you have in their communities?
Yeah, so we're always looking for board members. You can find information about that at sharedetroit.org. We also love volunteers. We have our hotline where we use volunteers to answer those phone calls coming in about HIV and STIs. And then we're always planning events. So we're looking for volunteers that want to help us raise money for our mission. And there's other opportunities too. So anytime we have one, we post it on sharedetroit.org. And we definitely welcome people to check that out and see if there's something that piques their interest.
For those that aren't affected by HIV or AIDS, what do you wish those in the community that maybe aren't involved in this community or don't have someone in their life that is afflicted with HIV and or AIDS, what do you wish that they knew about these conditions and the individuals that are afflicted with it?
So the one thing I like everyone to know is that we're all impacted by HIV. How we talk about HIV, how we talk about sexual health, that impacts everyone in our community, whether you're living with HIV or not. It can keep people from accessing services if there's stigma. and it prevents people living with HIV from receiving all of the services they need. So we do a lot of work around stigma reduction. We have a program where we train individuals to go out into their community networks and talk about stigma around HIV. We're doing a stigma index, which is an international research project where we interview people living with HIV to understand the stigma they're experiencing and then trying to address that in our communities. And finally, I want people to know that HIV treatment is available and that it works. Once you are on HIV treatment, you can reach an undetectable status, and that means you can't transmit the virus to your sexual partners. So it's really important for people to understand that HIV treatment is available. It's available if you don't have insurance, and it's available if you're not a citizen of the US. So if you need to know your status, please reach out to us. We want to do testing with you. And if you're living with HIV, we can connect you to the medical care you need.
You can always find more information too, resources and information, as well as check out their stigma index on miunified.org. It's miunified.org. It gives a bunch of information on how stigma is developed, how to combat the stigma, as well as more information on HIV and AIDS on the website, miunified.org. We're joined by the president of the organization, Leanne Savola, on the Michigan Megacast. Again, miunified.org or sharedetroit.org for more information. Leanne, what are some other ways at this time that people can help your organization provide the services that it provides to people throughout the state of Michigan, in Detroit, in Ypsilanti, and in Jackson, and your overall mission?
Yeah, I mean, reaching out, if you have a church or an event or something going on in your network, we want to hear about it because we might be able to do outreach at that event or provide services like HIV testing. We're also always looking for volunteers that are interested in helping our clients advance their education and careers. We have a project that's specifically focused on that, where we bring people living with HIV together to think about their careers and what they want to do next. And we're always looking for volunteers for that. Right now, we have some clients that are going to be attending a community health workers training. So we're going to be looking for jobs for them once they complete that certification. So any way you are interested in working with Unified, we want to hear from you. And you can reach us on our website or through sharedetroit.org.
Leanne, we appreciate you joining us. Anything else that we haven't discussed today that would be important for our audience to consider or keep in mind about your organization now and in the future?
Yeah, one last thing I'd like to always promote is there is a pill that you can take every day called PrEP that keeps you from getting HIV if you're exposed. And that's one service we offer is PrEP navigation, helping you navigate your insurance as well as medical care so you can get on that medication if it will help you stay free from HIV. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, appreciate having you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
miunified.org is their website, or you can visit sharedetroit.org and check out Unified HIV Health and Beyond, as well as over 300 other charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform. That is going to do it for this week's editions of both the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacasts. As always, you can keep up to date on all of our programs and find more information on all of our partnering TV, radio, and streaming and other media services that pick up our program live and live to tape 5 days a week on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Just below that, you'll find links to find all of our full programs and each individual interview on demand as well. civiccentertv.com/megacast. Click on our local news link at civiccentertv.com to keep up to date on COVID-19 with up-to-date and updated information from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division on COVID-19. We have direct links to each one of their COVID-19 specific web pages. It's a great place to start your continued research on COVID-19 and other public health issues at the local, state, and the federal level. Also on our local news page, we pull articles each and every day before our programs from journalistic outlets across the state of Michigan, so you can keep up to date on all the stories making headlines beyond COVID-19 and about COVID-19 from all regions of the state. Click on either of the the thumbnail picture or the headline itself. It'll take you directly to that article so you can read it in full. And while you're over there reading that article and other materials from these publications, if you have the means to do so, we highly encourage you to subscribe to those publications and support local journalism all throughout the great state of Michigan. Big thank you to all of our guests who joined us today and this week on both of our programs, as well as our crew, Calvin Brown and Jared Clark at Master Control, as well as the king of television, as we call him, Larry Nyland, our producer for each and every program. That's it for this week's shows. We'll return Monday with new editions of the Megacast.